ahead and jump into a story from your own life. Take all of that kind of failure philosophy and success definition and roll that out in the form of something that happened to you, one or multiple stories.
Yeah, as far as failure success goes, I can think of my first year in the real estate business. Rolling into the real estate business, I read all these books about unlimited income, being the master of your own destiny, and all this rah-rah kind of thing, which probably worked really well back in 2005, 2006. But I came rolling into real estate at the end of 2009, and the reality was completely different, but I still went in with that mindset and that expectation. So I some astronomical kind of sales volume target, and I thought I was going to be able to accomplish much more than was reasonable in that first year, and I didn't. I mean, I really set myself up for failure on that one. But in that first year, I learned so much about running a business and running it lean because I had to, and how to really pull up my bootstraps and really dig into the stuff that's important in order to make your business goes. I got to do a lot of me work. I learned a lot about my business life and my personal life, my relationship with business partners and the people who I would just work with, my potential clients. I learned about my relationship with God, my place in the world, my ability to minister to people through my business, and all of that was worth its weight in gold. So the fact that I didn't hit my sales volume target, yeah, it stank, and I felt a little bad about it. But at the end of the day, I was able to survive through a very, very difficult time in this market, which is a lot better than a lot of other people done. And I was able to learn all those lessons. So, I would, although in technical terms that year was a failure, that first year, I would not even put it close to that. I thought it was a very successful year for me.
So, were it was a failure for you because you didn't hit that astronomical sales goal, right? But were you so far below the sales goal that it was like it had a serious impact on your life?
No, it wasn't, because I wasn't aiming for paying my bills. I was aiming for paying my bills times four.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so I hit about half the sales target, and a lot of that was ignorance. And
Yeah.
from this perspective, I got to learn a lot about the realities of the marketplace, especially in real estate, and that what it would take and what my conversion rates really looked like within my business, what the specific actions I had to take looked like, and how much of that I had to do, and how many contacts I had to make, sales I had to make, and all of that stuff. And I talk so much about the emotional side, and I kind of default there, but in the very practical side, I learned a lot about what the realities are of running that business and hitting those numbers. So it was able to send me into my second year with a much more realistic and much more strategic sort of goal structure, so that I could actually be ambitious, be aggressive, but within reason, and do it in a way that actually makes sense.
So did you significantly reduce your sales goal that following year?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot, and I'm actually on track to do it well. Now, I didn't try to swing for the fences or anything like that, because I am trying to build this other business alongside of it, and there will come a day where this business overtakes that business. So I'm being very strategic about that, as far as how I prioritize, how I allocate energy, but also having to do that and being forced into that box has caused me to be super efficient in the way I conduct my real estate business. So that's actually had a positive benefit to that business.
Yeah. That's good though that if you were, if you're gonna almost double your sales from last year,
Right.
just in one year, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other stories for us?
Um, that of my first transaction. I'll go back to my first transaction, and this is a largely client services story where I failed in ways. A lot of it wasn't my fault, but that doesn't matter. My first transaction, I had this young married couple, and they were buying a house down in Smyrna. and we found a great house for them. We got a great deal on it, and I hooked them up with a mortgage lender. Well, this mortgage lender did not do the best job. It wasn't completely his fault either. There were a lot of factors at play. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. Suffice it to say, they had a bad experience in that piece of the transaction. Their closing was delayed about a month and a half, which caused all sorts of problems for them, caused all sorts of problems for me. Emotions were raging, raging, raging. And at the end of the day, my failure was that I wasn't able to deliver the experience they deserved. Uh, the fault wasn't all mine. There were a lot of factors that were out of my control there, but I also didn't have the experience or the skills necessary to deal with those factors. And it taught me that I needed to up my game as far as emotional intelligence goes and how to deal with people even when I'm not responsible for their problems, but how to still be able to work with them and help them work through that, which was tough to say the least, but it's a very necessary skill. And I would strongly advise any young entrepreneur or even current entrepreneur to really pay attention to your emotional intelligence and how to work with people, even when there's nothing you can do to help them.
Oh yeah. So what? Tell us what kind of, I guess, costs were associated with this for you, this failure. Like, did the people just, other than them just being sorely upset with you? Well, I mean, even that, you can elaborate on that. But what were some of the other kind of costs that for you personally and in the business?
Sure. The costs were a feeling of helplessness. You know, being pretty green and pretty wet behind the ears, I didn't know how to handle everything that was coming up. As far as strict real estate services go, I served them well, and I didn't make any mistakes in the transaction. But there were so many more pieces to that, and it really made me question my ability to serve people in real estate. It made me question my own confidence in the business. It also, those are the kind of personal costs. It also cost me in that I had to wait a month and a half for my first closing when I had already quit my day job in anticipation of my first closing. So that first month was really, really tight. And moving beyond that, it also cost me an important referral source. I mean, general practice dictates that each past client can bring me two more referrals in a year. Now, the relationship was strained, and again, even though it wasn't my fault and we maintained an okay relationship, I didn't deliver, or we weren't able to deliver that positive experience that would turn them into the raving fans that would send me that referral business. So I may have lost a relationship there with them and the potential for future relationships and future business.
Hmm. Did you ever use that lender again? Or yeah, that was the mortgage company, right?
The mortgage company, yeah. That lender left that mortgage company, and I did use him again once or twice.
Okay. So, but not the mortgage company again, which is where a lot of the problem lied.
No, no.
Do you feel like you should have done better due diligence when you were making arrangements to use them as a mortgage company?
Yeah, I could have spent more time interviewing lenders. Again, I was new in the business, so I didn't have a lot of those relationships built.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's kind of one of those growing pains that comes with the business. As you move along, you have good transactions, you have bad transactions. You learn what makes the difference between a good lender and a bad lender, and eventually you develop relationships with people. Where I have two lenders who I would trust with anything and send anybody to them because I know exactly how it's going to go. I know they're thorough, they're honest, and they're quick. I mean, they know their stuff. And in any home purchase transaction, all of the problems are going to come with the financing process. So that is, sending someone to a good lender can make or break the experience.
Yeah.
Learn that.
Yeah. The hard way.
Yeah, the hard way.
But and I guess this is such a great example because I mean, has what's really going on here has nothing to do with real estate.
Hmm.
It has all to do with I guess client care
Yeah,
and any sort of where you're not the only service provider in
right,
a deal, which
right.
happens very often.
Mm-hmm.
when you have multiple moving parts in a deal. But regardless, and what I think what's very interesting to me is that um, you're the kind of, and this comes back to how you're defining your successes by, not just, okay, I'm the realtor. I found them the house. I whatever wrote up the papers. We sent it off the mortgage company. Okay, I did my piece, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. But you define your success as so much more than that, because to
Right.
you, those people are your they're your client, not just, you don't just pass them along and that's the end of
Right.
it. They're yours through the entire process, and really owning that process, and defining it as the full spectrum, giving them a good experience, is really interesting that you would um, then kind of view that as a failure, even though, like you keep saying, that in it, that it's really was kind of out of your hands at that point.
Right.
Um, so that's really interesting to always, at no point do you ever want to um, or I guess be, leave some sort of defining factor of your success out of your hands. Is kind of what I
Right.
get from it. So you need to, and like you said, after that you went and found some lenders that were
Mm-hmm.
very, very, you knew them very well. They're very reliable, and so that's important. So anything that's a core part of how you define your successes, you always want to have as many touches on that as possible. So great
Right.
example.
Right. You
Um,
find, there are always going to be facets that you can't control, but you want to be able to control every piece that you can so that you can provide that excellent service in all of the areas where it's yours to provide it, if that makes sense.